Ethan's shuttle hummed softly as it descended toward Zithra, a planet that had captured the imagination of explorers across the galaxy. He had seen many worlds, but none quite like this. The atmosphere shimmered with silver sunlight, casting faint rainbows across floating cities made of crystalline structures that seemed to defy gravity. Below, rivers of liquid light wove through forests of towering bioluminescent plants. It was a world of beauty and danger, of elegance and hidden peril. He adjusted his seat and glanced at the mission briefing. Zithra was known for its elite rulers, who valued intelligence, courage, and subtlety above all else. The goal of his mission was simple: make contact, establish diplomacy, and perhaps forge an alliance. But the reality was far more complicated. Humans were outsiders here, and the Zitherans had a reputation for testing every visitor in ways that often left the boldest adventurers humbled, or worse. As the shuttle touched down, the door hissed open, revealing a figure standing with poise and authority. Liara stepped forward, her appearance striking enough to stop Ethan in his tracks. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered faintly like liquid silver. Her eyes, deep and luminous, seemed to read his very thoughts. There was an intensity about her presence, a mixture of challenge and mystery that made Ethan both cautious and intrigued. "You'll regret choosing me," Liara said softly, her tone carrying a mixture of warning and amusement. Ethan raised an eyebrow, unshaken by her words. His bold smile appeared almost instinctively. "Bold words," he said. "I like a challenge." Liara's lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes remained sharp. Many humans before him had come with confidence, but Zithra's tests were not simple. Choosing her, or even earning her respect, was not something done lightly. She had warned him, and the warning alone made him pay closer attention to every movement, every word, every glance. The shuttle ride into the city was quiet, punctuated only by the soft hum of the engines. Ethan's mind raced as he took in the surroundings. Crystal towers stretched high into the sky, reflecting sunlight in dazzling patterns. Skybridges connected floating platforms, and in the distance, airships glided gracefully, their polished hulls catching the light. The city was alive with movement, yet every motion seemed deliberate, almost ceremonial. Liara guided him through the streets, her movements fluid and precise. She led him past open markets where alien merchants displayed goods of unimaginable beauty, floating orbs of energy, plants that shifted colors with thought, fabrics that shimmered like water. Yet the beauty was a distraction. Ethan knew that in Zithra, appearances were deceptive. The people here measured intelligence and courage in ways humans rarely understood. They arrived at a building that seemed to pulse with energy. Its walls were transparent, yet they distorted the view in strange ways, making it impossible to gauge the true scale of the interior. Liara gestured for him to follow. Inside, the space was vast, with platforms suspended over a glowing pool of energy. It was a place of ceremony, of judgment, and perhaps of secrets Ethan could not yet imagine. Liara paused at the center of the chamber and turned to him. "This is where your first lesson begins," she said. "Zithra is not forgiving to those who act without thought. Every choice you make will reveal who you truly are." Ethan nodded. "I've faced challenges before. I don't intend to fail here." Her gaze softened slightly, though the warning remained. "Confidence is necessary," she said, "but arrogance is fatal." The first test was subtle. Liara asked him questions that seemed casual at first, about his home, his experiences, his philosophy of life. But each question was layered, probing deeper than mere words. Ethan had to answer honestly while demonstrating insight and tact. A false answer could mean failure, or worse, a misstep that could endanger his mission. He spoke carefully, revealing enough to show his humanity and courage, but holding back nothing that could be used against him. Liara listened intently, her eyes narrowing and widening in shifts that Ethan could not fully interpret. After what felt like hours, she finally nodded, a hint of approval in her expression. "You have more awareness than most," she said. "But awareness alone is not enough." The next trial was physical but no less cunning. Liara led him into a labyrinth that twisted in impossible angles, defying simple navigation. Platforms moved, walls shifted, and paths appeared only to vanish moments later. It was a test of instinct, adaptability, and observation. Many had entered and lost their way, their confidence giving way to confusion and fear. Ethan relied on his intuition and careful observation. He noticed patterns in the labyrinth's movements, small shifts in the walls, and subtle changes in lighting that hinted at the correct paths. When faced with a seemingly impossible jump, he paused, calculated, and acted decisively. Every step forward was a blend of courage and intelligence, and with each success, he could feel Liara's scrutiny lessening, replaced with something that resembled cautious admiration. At the center of the labyrinth, he found a platform suspended above a pool of shimmering energy. Liara was there, waiting. "You see," she said, "the labyrinth does not test your strength alone. It tests your mind, your focus, and your heart. Many fail because they cannot see the whole, only the immediate." Ethan smiled. "Then I suppose I succeeded." Liara's lips curved, not fully into a smile, but enough to soften her usual severity. "Perhaps, but this is only the beginning." They left the labyrinth and ascended to a terrace overlooking the city. The floating towers glimmered in the twilight, and the rivers of light flowed endlessly below. Ethan could feel the weight of Zithra pressing on him, the sense that every choice here carried consequence, that beauty could conceal danger, and that the people of this world were masters of subtlety and strategy. "You are human," Liara said quietly, as if reading his thoughts. "I have met many like you, bold, confident, full of energy, yet few survive the trials of my people, few endure without losing themselves." Ethan met her gaze steadily. "I don't intend to lose myself." Her eyes softened for the first time, revealing a flicker of curiosity, maybe even respect. "You are unlike others," she admitted. "But know this, choosing me or walking beside me will not be simple. There will be moments when your courage is tested, when your morality is questioned, and when your very understanding of trust is challenged." He chuckled lightly, the boldness in his tone unwavering. "Then I choose you fully, and I don't regret choices I make with conviction." Liara's gaze lingered on him, measuring, evaluating, searching for cracks that did not exist. She had warned him, after all, that he might regret this. Yet she could not deny that his confidence, his composure, and his clarity of purpose were unusual. Many humans faltered in the face of her tests. Ethan seemed to thrive in them. Over the next few days, Ethan observed Zitharan society closely. He learned of their customs, their strategies, and their subtle ways of testing even the most competent diplomats. Liara remained at his side, guiding him through challenges that were both physical and intellectual. Some were open, like navigating the floating cities, and others were private, like deciphering the hidden meanings in their communication. Every interaction with her was a lesson. She challenged him to think critically, to observe the smallest details, and to trust his instincts even when everything in him screamed doubt. And throughout it all, Ethan smiled, faced every test head-on, and remained unwavering in his determination. One evening, as they stood on a terrace watching the twin moons rise above the horizon, Liara spoke softly. "Few humans have ever come this far," she said. "Your courage is admirable, but courage alone cannot win the respect of my people. You must also demonstrate wisdom, integrity, and an understanding of our ways." Ethan's smile never faltered. "Then I'll keep learning. I'm not afraid to face what comes next." For a long moment, Liara studied him in silence, the wind catching strands of her silver hair. She could see that Ethan's boldness was not reckless. It was tempered with awareness and thought. He faced her warnings with a smile, not arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who understood the stakes and chose to meet them head-on. Finally, she spoke again. "Very well, you have passed the first trials, but the true test is only beginning. Choose wisely, human. Every step from here will matter more than you imagine." Ethan nodded, unshaken. "I've chosen already," he said simply, "and I'm ready for what comes next." As he looked at her, he understood something important. This was not just about diplomacy or survival. This was about proving the strength of humanity itself, the courage, the intellect, and the resilience that defined him. And as he faced Zithra's challenges, he knew that one thing would carry him through: a bold smile, unwavering resolve, and the refusal to regret a choice made with conviction. In that moment, standing on a terrace above the crystalline city, Ethan realized that he was not just visiting Zithra. He was becoming part of its story, shaping his place in a world that demanded courage, intelligence, and an unbreakable spirit. Liara's warning had been clear, but Ethan was ready to face it, boldly, fearlessly, and without regret. And so, with the twin moons rising above, he smiled once more at the alien beauty who had warned him, confident that the challenge ahead would only make the human spirit shine brighter. The following morning, the city of Zithra gleamed under the silver sunlight, casting long reflections across the floating towers and rivers of light. Ethan awoke early, feeling the weight of the trials that still lay ahead. Liara had warned him that the first challenges were only the beginning. Today, the tests would go deeper, not just of his skill or courage, but of his mind, his judgment, and his ability to understand the Zitharan way of life. He met Liara at a terrace overlooking the central energy pool, where a series of floating platforms stretched across the glowing water. "Today," she said, her voice calm but commanding, "you will witness the trials that determine an outsider's worth to our people. Observe closely, learn quickly, and remember, every decision matters." Ethan nodded. "I'm ready." They moved toward the Hall of Judgment, a structure built entirely of translucent crystals. Inside, dozens of Zitharan officials were already gathered, their movements precise and synchronized. Ethan felt the weight of their scrutiny immediately. These were not simple observers, they were judges, evaluating every nuance of his demeanor, every micro-expression, every subtle decision. Liara stepped forward and addressed the assembly. "We have a visitor from another world. He has shown promise, but his trials are not yet complete. Today, he will face the challenges that test not just skill, but understanding, courage, and the integrity of the heart." Ethan's heart raced, but he kept his composure. The Zitharans' reputation for complex tests was well known across the galaxy. Few outsiders succeeded, and fewer still earned the respect of their elites. He could feel Liara's gaze on him, calm yet probing, as if measuring the depth of his resolve. The first trial involved diplomacy under pressure. Ethan was presented with a scenario in which rival Zitharan factions disputed control over a critical energy resource. Each faction made its case, emphasizing their historical rights, potential for innovation, and ability to contribute to the planet's prosperity. Ethan had to mediate the conflict, proposing a solution that balanced fairness, efficiency, and foresight. He listened carefully, noting patterns in their arguments and subtle hints in their tone and gestures. Where one faction appeared aggressive, he countered with understanding, acknowledging their concerns while steering the conversation toward compromise. When another faction attempted to manipulate the discussion with appeals to emotion, he maintained calm, guiding them back to logic and long-term vision. By the end of the session, the factions had agreed to a plan that satisfied all parties. Liara's eyes glimmered with approval. "You understand more than many of our diplomats," she said quietly. "You navigate not only words but intent. Few humans possess this insight." The next trial was physical, but not in a way Ethan expected. He was led to a vast training arena where platforms floated high above the ground, moving unpredictably. His task was to cross the arena without falling, while solving puzzles that appeared on panels along the way. It required agility, balance, and quick thinking under pressure. Ethan stepped carefully, observing the rhythm of the moving platforms. Each puzzle tested his reasoning, requiring him to analyze symbols, anticipate patterns, and act decisively. One wrong move could send him plummeting into the energy pool below, but he moved with calm confidence, combining careful observation with bold action. Halfway through, a platform tilted unexpectedly, forcing him to leap over a widening gap. His muscles tensed, his mind calculated the distance, and he jumped, landing securely on the next platform. Liara watched silently from above, her expression unreadable, though Ethan could sense a hint of admiration. After completing the arena, Ethan faced the final and most personal challenge, the Hall of Reflections. He entered a massive chamber filled with mirrored surfaces that projected not only his image, but his fears, doubts, and memories. The reflections were more than illusions. They were tests of character, showing him potential failures, regrets, and insecurities. He saw visions of past mistakes, friends he had lost, and moments where courage had failed him. He felt the weight of each reflection pressing down, threatening to shake his confidence. But he remembered Liara's words, "Trust in yourself and face every challenge with honesty and integrity." Ethan confronted each reflection with calm resolve. Where fear appeared, he acknowledged it without surrendering. Where doubt arose, he met it with rational thought and conviction. Each reflection faded as he faced it, replaced by his own unbroken determination. By the time he reached the center of the hall, only the most subtle reflection remained. Liara herself, not as a threat, but as a measure of his ability to connect with and understand another being. She stepped forward, her presence commanding yet gentle. "Few outsiders reach this point," she said softly. "Even fewer do so without losing themselves. You have endured not by avoiding fear or challenge, but by confronting it fully. This is rare among humans." Ethan met her gaze, his bold smile unwavering. "I do not face challenges to avoid them. I face them because they are part of the path, and I choose to walk it with honesty and courage." Liara studied him for a long moment. Her eyes, which had seemed impenetrable, revealed a flicker of emotion, respect, curiosity, perhaps even admiration. "You have passed the trials that most could not," she admitted. "Yet know this, the greatest challenges are not tests of skill, but of trust, understanding, and loyalty. Will you continue to face them willingly?" Ethan nodded firmly. "I will, not because it is easy, but because it is right." For the next few days, Ethan worked alongside Liara in the delicate art of Zitharan diplomacy. He observed her negotiating with other leaders, solving complex problems, and balancing the needs of her people with fairness and wisdom. He realized that her warning, "You'll regret choosing me," was not a threat of danger, but a caution that life with her required more than courage or charm. It demanded dedication, intellect, and the ability to remain steadfast in the face of challenge. As they spent time together, Ethan saw beyond Liara's beauty and authority. He saw her as a leader who bore the weight of her world with strength and grace. He saw her compassion, her sharp mind, and her unwavering commitment to her people. And slowly, she began to see him as more than an outsider. She saw his courage, his intelligence, and his willingness to face every challenge with integrity and boldness. One evening, they stood on a terrace overlooking the city, watching the twin moons rise above the horizon. Liara spoke softly, almost to herself. "Few humans have ever come this far," she said. "Fewer still have done so without being changed by fear or arrogance. You are different." Ethan smiled, not arrogantly but warmly. "I choose to be true to myself," he said. "I don't change to avoid fear or gain favor. I face what comes and I learn from it." Liara's expression softened further. "Perhaps that is why you are still here," she said. "Perhaps that is why I no longer warn you." The weeks passed quickly. Together, they navigated Zithra's political intrigues, resolved disputes, and faced minor threats from rival factions. Ethan's understanding of Zitharan culture deepened, and he proved time and again that humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and courage could match even the most advanced civilizations. Liara began to trust him not only as an ally but as a partner. She relied on his judgment, valued his insights, and saw in him a reflection of the qualities her people admired most: fearlessness, intelligence, and integrity. And Ethan, in turn, respected her for her wisdom, strength, and the subtle lessons she imparted at every moment. The final moment of recognition came when the Zitharan Council gathered to confirm the new human-Zitharan alliance. Ethan stood beside Liara as she addressed the assembly, and for the first time, he felt fully accepted in her world. Not as a visitor, not as an outsider, but as someone who had proven his worth through courage, intellect, and an unshakable spirit. Liara turned to him afterward, her voice soft and steady. "You have chosen wisely, human," she said. "And you have shown that humanity has the strength to stand beside us, not just as allies but as equals. I warned you once, but you did not falter." Ethan's bold smile appeared once more. "I told you," he said. "I don't regret a choice made with conviction." For the first time, Liara allowed herself a full smile, a rare expression that spoke of trust, respect, and perhaps even a budding friendship or something deeper. "Then perhaps choosing me was not a mistake," she admitted. "But remember, the path we walk together will never be simple." Ethan shrugged lightly, his confidence steady. "I don't need simple. I need to walk the right path, and I'm ready, no matter what comes next." As they looked over the city of Zithra, gleaming under twin moons and silver sunlight, Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. He had faced trials designed to challenge courage, intellect, and character. He had confronted fear, doubt, and subtle tests of judgment. And through it all, he had proven that humanity's boldness, creativity, and resilience could thrive even in the most sophisticated alien worlds. Liara stood beside him, a being of unmatched beauty and intelligence, no longer a warning but a partner. The human and the Zitharan looked out at a horizon full of possibility, united not just by diplomacy, but by mutual respect and the understanding that true courage was not measured by the absence of fear, but by the ability to face it with an unshakable spirit and a bold smile. And so, on the world of silver sunlight and floating crystal cities, a human had chosen to embrace the challenge, and an alien beauty had come to recognize that courage, integrity, and confidence could shine brighter than the most dazzling illusions of her world. Together, they stepped forward into the future, aware of the challenges yet unafraid, knowing that what they had built was stronger than beauty, deeper than warning, and brighter than fear. The trials were over, but the story had only just begun.